Let me tell you something about the night my entire life shifted direction without any warning whatsoever. It was past midnight. I was half asleep on my couch, some show playing on the TV that I wasn't even watching anymore, when someone knocked on my door. Not a polite knock either. It was urgent, desperate, the kind of knock that makes you sit up straight before you've even fully woken up. I opened the door and I just stopped. Lily was standing there in the rain, soaking wet, her auburn hair plastered against her face and falling in dark, heavy waves around her shoulders, mascara running down her cheeks, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something together that was already coming apart. And I know that sounds like the beginning of a movie, but this was real. This was my doorstep, and she was looking at me like I was the only solid thing left in her world. Now, before I go any further, let me give you some context, because without it, you won't fully understand why that moment hit me the way it did. My name is Cole. I'm 27, and Lily Morrison, the woman standing in my doorway looking like she'd just survived something, was my best friend Jake's little sister. I'd known her since she was 14 years old. Back then she was all pigtails and soccer cleats and eye rolls directed at Jake and me whenever we were being idiots, which honestly was most of the time. She used to trail behind us sometimes, not because she wanted to hang out with us exactly, but because Jake's house was her house and we were always in it. She was just there, in the background, the little sister, the kid. Jake and I had been inseparable since high school. The kind of friendship where you don't even need to explain yourself, you just show up and the other person already knows. We played on the same team, got into the same trouble, talked each other through the hard stuff. He was the closest thing I had to a brother, and Lily was just his sister. That was the box she lived in my mind, completely off limits. Not even a conversation I was willing to have with myself. But here's the thing about boxes. Sometimes life just walks up and kicks them over without asking permission. I stepped back from the door. "Come in," I said, and she did. She walked past me into the apartment, leaving a trail of wet footprints on my hardwood floor, and for just a second, just one brief second, her arm brushed against mine as she passed. Neither of us pulled away quite fast enough. I noticed. I told myself I didn't. She stopped in the middle of the living room and turned around to face me. I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time. She was 23. I don't know exactly when that happened. When the teenager I used to drive to soccer practice became this woman standing in my living room looking like she was carrying something unbearably heavy. But standing there in my apartment, with rain dripping from her hair and her green eyes red from crying, she was not a kid. She hadn't been for a long time. I just hadn't let myself see it. "Lily," I said, "what happened? Are you okay?" She laughed. Came out sharp and broken and not like a laugh at all. She pressed the back of her hand against her mouth for a second, like she was steadying herself. Then she said, "Ethan proposed." I blinked. Ethan was her boyfriend of 3 years. Successful guy. Stable. The kind of man Jake had practically hand-selected and approved with 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. The kind of man that Lily's parents beamed about at family dinners. Everyone around her had quietly, collectively decided that Ethan was the ending to Lily's story. It was just a matter of time. "Okay," I said carefully. "And?" I said no. Her voice was steady when she said it. Steadier than the rest of her looked. "I broke up with him. Tonight. And Jake found out and he's furious with me and I couldn't go home. I didn't know where else to go." She looked at me then with this expression I didn't have a name for. Like she was waiting for me to react. Like she was bracing for disappointment from one more person. I didn't give her that. I just said, "Sit down. Let me get you something warm." I went to the kitchen and put the kettle on. And I stood there with my hands on the counter, staring at the wall, trying to sort through the strange, unnamed thing that had just moved through my chest when I opened that door and saw her standing there. I told myself it was concern. That's all it was. She was Jake's sister, and she was upset, and I was concerned. That's what you feel for someone you've known since they were a teenager. That's normal. I believed that. For about another 20 minutes. I brought her the tea and a blanket from the closet. When I held the blanket out to her, she reached for it and our fingers overlapped. Briefly, barely, and she stilled for just a moment before taking it from me. Neither of us said anything about it. She sat on the couch, both hands wrapped around the mug, the blanket pulled around her shoulders. I sat in the chair across from her. Safe distance. Appropriate distance. I was very aware of the distance. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment, looking down at the tea. The rain was still going outside, soft and steady against the windows. Then she said, "I realized I didn't love him." I waited. "I've been pretending," she said, "for a long time, telling myself that what I felt was enough, that I'd grow into it, that love isn't always this overwhelming thing, that comfortable and stable was good, that I should be grateful." She paused. But I kept waking up next to him and feeling like I was living someone else's life. "Lily," I said quietly, "why did you stay as long as you did?" She lifted her eyes from the mug and looked at me, and the room went very still. "Because admitting why I wanted to leave was scarier than staying," she said. Something in her voice made me go careful and slow inside, the way you do when you sense you're standing near something fragile. "What do you mean?" I asked. She held my gaze, and the silence between us stretched out, long and full and loaded with something I couldn't quite name yet but could absolutely feel pressing against the walls of the room. "I mean," she said softly, "that I've been in love with someone else. For a long time, my heart did something strange, a kind of slow, sinking lurch." "Who?" I asked, and I don't know why I asked. Some part of me, the part I'd been ignoring for God knows how long, already knew the answer before it left her mouth. She looked at me with those green eyes, steady, certain, terrifying. "You, Cole," she said. "I've been in love with you since I was 16 years old." I didn't say anything. I'm not sure I was capable of saying anything in that moment. The rain kept going outside. The lamp in the corner kept burning. Everything was exactly the same and completely different. "Since the day you taught me to drive in that empty parking lot," she continued, her voice quieter now but not wavering. "Since you showed up to my high school graduation when Jake was out of town and you didn't have to but you did. Since every single time you looked at me like I was still a kid and I was standing right there desperately wanting you to see me differently." I sat there with the weight of what she'd just said settling over me like something physical. I didn't realize it then, not fully, but that was the moment. That was the exact moment the life I thought I was living started becoming something else entirely. I want to be honest with you about what went through my head in those first few seconds after she said it. My first thought was, this isn't real. My second thought was, she's upset. She just ended a 3-year relationship. She doesn't know what she's saying. My third thought, and this is the one I didn't want to have, was that the way she was looking at me felt like the most real thing that had happened in this apartment in years. But I pushed that one down fast. "Lily," I said, and I tried to keep my voice gentle, careful. "You've been through something really hard tonight. You're emotional and you're tired and—" "Don't," she said, quiet but firm. She set the mug down on the coffee table and stood up slowly. "Please don't do that. Don't treat this like it's the breakup talking. I've been carrying this for 7 years, Cole. 7 years. It has nothing to do with tonight." She crossed the room toward me, slowly, like she'd thought about this moment, rehearsed it in some private corner of her mind. She stopped a few feet away and just looked at me, and I felt the full weight of that look in a way I had absolutely no defense against. "I ended things with Ethan because I couldn't keep lying," she said. "Not to him, not to myself. I couldn't keep choosing someone safe and comfortable when you're the person I think about. When you're the one I keep coming back to in my head, over and over, no matter how hard I try not to." I stood up, because sitting felt wrong, felt like I was too still for what this moment was demanding of me. "Jake is my best friend," I said. "You know that. You know what this would do. Jake doesn't get to decide who I love." She said it simply, not angry, just matter of fact. And she was close now, close enough that I could feel the cold still faintly radiating off her damp clothes, smell the mix of her perfume and rain. Her auburn hair was starting to dry in loose waves around her shoulders, and I was aware, painfully, inconveniently aware, of every detail of her face. I looked away first, because I had to, because if I kept looking I was going to lose the argument I was having with myself. "Say something," she said softly. "I don't know what to say." "Then say what's true." And that was the thing, wasn't it? Because the true thing was not the safe thing. The true thing was the thing I'd been filing away in a locked drawer for longer than I wanted to admit. I went to the kitchen, not because I needed anything, but because I needed to move, needed 10 seconds of not standing that close to her. I put the kettle back on even though we didn't need more tea. She followed me without being asked, leaned against the counter beside me, and we stood there in the narrow kitchen with our shoulders almost touching, saying nothing. It was the kind of silence that wasn't empty. It was full, completely full, of everything neither of us was saying yet. I kept my eyes on the kettle. I could feel her eyes on me. "Tell me you don't feel anything," she said at last. Her voice was low. "Look me in the eye and tell me you've never once wondered. Tell me that and I'll go. I'll walk out right now and we'll never talk about this again." I turned to look at her, and I couldn't say it. I couldn't say it because it wasn't true, and I think she already knew it wasn't true, and we both just stood there in the kitchen with that fact hanging in the air between us like something neither of us could take back. I thought about her college graduation, the way she'd hugged me and somehow fit perfectly against me, and I'd held on for just a beat longer than was strictly appropriate, and then spent the drive home telling myself it didn't mean anything. I thought about last Christmas, sitting across the table from her at Jake's family dinner, and the way her laugh had rung out across the room, and I'd caught myself turning toward the sound before I even realized I was doing it. I thought about her birthday 2 months ago, when she'd walked into the restaurant in the simple dress, and I'd looked at her and felt something shift uncomfortably in my chest, and I'd made an excuse to leave an hour early just to get some distance from the feeling. I'd locked all of it away, every single moment, because she was Lily, Jake's sister, off limits, forbidden, the line I didn't cross. But she was standing here in my kitchen in the middle of the night, having just blown her entire life apart, and she was asking me to be honest with her. And I couldn't look at her and lie. "You're not crazy," I said quietly. She exhaled, just barely, like she'd been holding that breath for years and had finally been allowed to let it go. And her eyes filled, not spilling over, just filling. And she blinked once, slowly. We moved back to the couch. I turned the lamp down low because the bright light felt wrong for what the night had become. She curled her feet up beneath her, pulled the blanket back around her shoulders, and I sat beside her. Close this time, not across the room. The distance between us on the couch was maybe the length of a hand. We talked, quietly, carefully at first, and then more honestly than I'd talked to anyone in a long time. She told me about the years with Ethan, about going through the motions of a relationship that looked right from every outside angle but felt hollow from the inside, about sitting at dinner with him and laughing at the right moments and saying the right things and driving home afterward feeling lonelier than she did when she was by herself, about watching me show up in her life again and again through Jake, and feeling the gap between who she was with Ethan and what she actually wanted grow wider every time. Then she said my name, just my name, in the middle of a quiet pause. And I turned to look at her, and she was already looking at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Open, completely unguarded. The armor she usually wore was just gone, and what was underneath it was so honest and so raw that I had to hold very still. I used to find reasons to be around when you'd come over to see Jake, she said, with a small, self-aware sort of smile. I'd come downstairs for a glass of water I didn't need, find something in the kitchen that had to be there right then, sit in the living room pretending to read while you two watched whatever game was on, just to hear your voice, just to be in the same room. I didn't notice, I admitted. I know, she said. That was the point. I was terrified you'd notice. I laughed softly. So did she. And for a moment the tension eased into something warmer, something almost easy. Then she said, "Did you ever even once think about me? Not as Jake's sister, as just me? And here's the thing. Here's where I could have kept the wall up, where I could have said something careful and non-committal and let the moment pass. Instead I said, your birthday, 2 months ago. I left early because I couldn't stay." She went very still. "Why?" "Because you looked..." I stopped, started again. "Because I looked at you and I felt something I didn't have a good enough excuse for. And leaving felt safer than sitting with it." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was the opposite of uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that means something has been understood without needing to be said any further. Slowly, without making a production of it, she shifted on the couch, just a few inches, her shoulder coming to rest lightly against mine. I didn't move away. I let the warmth of it settle. Then her hand moved, across the cushion, quiet and unhurried, until it rested on top of mine. Not grabbing, not demanding anything, just resting there warm and still, like a question asked very gently. I looked down at our hands. Then I turned mine over slowly beneath hers. She looked up at me, and I kissed her, not impulsively, not frantically, slowly, like something that had been building for a very long time and was finally carefully being allowed to happen. And every wall I'd spent years constructing just went quiet. When we broke apart, neither of us spoke for a moment. She stayed close, her forehead nearly touching mine, and I could feel her breathing, feel the warmth of her. Outside, the rain had softened to something almost gentle. "We can't tell Jake," I said. "Not yet." She pulled back just enough to look at me. "I don't care about Jake right now," she said softly. "I care about this. He's going to find out. Then we'll deal with it when he does." She looked at me with those steady green eyes. "But right now, Cole, I need you to stop thinking about my brother and just be here with me." So I was right there with her. We stayed on that couch until the sky started going gray and pale outside the windows. I made her more tea she didn't ask for. She accepted it with both hands wrapped around the mug, the blanket still draped around her shoulders, and we sat close in the low lamplight and talked in that quiet, unhurried way that only happens in the very early hours of the morning when the rest of the world is still asleep and it feels like the two of you are the only people in existence. She talked and I listened, really listened. Not the polite half-listening I was guilty of most of the time, where part of your brain is already composing your response while the other person is still talking. I mean the kind of listening where you're just fully present, taking in everything, the words and the pauses between them and the things she wasn't quite saying but almost was. She told me about being 19 and dating a guy in college who cheated on her, and the way it had broken something fundamental in how she trusted people. About learning to read the room obsessively after that, to watch for signs, to brace herself. About how loving with her whole heart was the only way she knew how to love, and how that had been used against her more than once by people who called it too much. I told her I didn't think it was too much. She looked at me sideways when I said that, like she was checking whether I meant it. "I mean it," I said. She was quiet a moment. Then she said, "Most people get tired of it eventually." "I'm not most people." She held my gaze for a long second. Then she looked back down at her tea. Somewhere in the middle of the night she stopped talking and I stopped talking and we just sat there together in the silence, her head gradually, slowly, finding its way to my shoulder. She didn't announce it. She didn't ask if it was okay. She just settled there, like it was natural, like that was the place she'd always been meant to land. I stayed very still. I was aware of the weight of her against me, the warmth of it, the strange sense of rightness that I didn't know what to do with. I stared at the ceiling. She stared at it too. The lamp burned low. Outside the rain finally stopped, leaving everything quiet. At some point, without either of us deciding to, we fell asleep like that. I woke up first. She was still leaning against me, her breathing slow and even, her hand resting on the inside of my wrist in the way it had found its way there somewhere in the night. Her thumb resting just against my pulse point, barely touching and somehow anchoring at the same time. I didn't move. I just stayed there and looked at the light coming under the curtains and tried to figure out what exactly I was feeling. It wasn't confusion, exactly. It was more like the feeling of realizing something you already knew but hadn't looked at directly yet. I was in trouble. Real, legitimate, irreversible trouble. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure I wanted to get out of it. When dawn came fully, she stirred and lifted her head from my shoulder, blinking. She looked at me with sleepy, quiet eyes, her hair soft around her face, and said, "What happens now?" The way she asked it, no armor, no bravado, just raw, honest vulnerability, landed somewhere in my chest and just stayed there. "I don't know yet," I said honestly, "but I'm not letting you go." She looked at me for a long moment. "Promise, promise." She exhaled slowly, and for a second she looked so relieved it almost broke my heart a little, like she'd been braced for a completely different answer. Like she'd spent so many years expecting people to choose the easy thing over her that she didn't quite know how to process someone choosing not to. She stayed. She didn't go back to her apartment, didn't go face Jake, didn't dive back into the real world yet. We ordered breakfast from a place down the street and ate it on the living room floor because I didn't have enough table space and we didn't care. She borrowed one of my shirts and it was too big for her and she said she was keeping it and I said fine. We existed inside those first few days like they were a separate universe with different rules. Just us and takeout containers and the TV on in the background and long conversations that went nowhere in particular. Learning each other. Not the surface versions of each other that we'd always shown in Jake's vicinity, the real versions. The ones we kept for private. I learned that she was quietly competitive, that she hated losing at card games and was not graceful about it. That she read everything, novels, long articles, the backs of cereal boxes. That she had this habit of going completely still and focused when something caught her attention, like the rest of the world just stopped existing for a moment. That she laughed easily and honestly, and that her laugh was the kind of sound that made you want to say something funny again immediately just to hear it. She learned that I talked too much when I was nervous, that I had strong, irrational opinions about the correct way to make coffee, that I kept a notebook I'd never shown anyone, full of half-finished thoughts and observations I wrote down in the middle of the night. She asked to read it. I said maybe someday. She said she'd hold me to that. It was easy in a way I hadn't expected, tender in a way I hadn't been prepared for. And then Jake found out. He didn't call ahead. That wasn't his style. He still had the spare key I'd given him years ago for emergencies, and I suppose in his mind this qualified as one. I heard the key in the lock and had about 1.5 seconds before the door opened. He walked in, took in the scene. Lily on the couch in my shirt, me beside her, the obvious, undeniable closeness of the two of us, and just stopped. His face did something I'd never seen it do before. It went through about 5 different expressions in quick succession. Shock, disbelief, a hard kind of hurt. And then the mask came down and it became anger because anger was easier. "What?" he said slowly, looking between us. "Is going on?" I stood up. "Jake, sit down. Let me explain." "Explain what, exactly?" His voice was controlled. That quiet, careful, controlled tone that I knew from years of friendship meant he was working hard not to raise it. "What exactly do you want to explain to me, Cole?" Lily stood too. "Jake, stop. Are you too?" He didn't finish the sentence. He looked at me. "She's my sister. My little sister. And you," he stopped again. Like the words kept failing him. "I know," I said. "Then how?" "Because I couldn't not." I said it simply, and it came out more certain than I expected. "I tried. I've been trying. But Jake, I'm in love with her." The room went completely silent. I mean completely. The kind of silence where you can hear your own heartbeat. And this was the moment I'll remember for the rest of my life. Not because of Jake's expression, though that was something. Not even because of what I just said out loud for the first time. But because of Lily. I turned to look at her. Her lips were parted slightly. Her eyes were full, not spilling, just full, the way someone looks when they're holding themselves together very carefully because the moment is too big to break. She was looking at me like she hadn't quite believed, even after everything, that I would say it. Like some part of her had still been braced for me to pull back at the last second, to choose the easier thing. I hadn't, and now she knew it. "You're what?" Jake said. "I love her," I said again, looking at him, then back at her. "I'm in love with Lily, and I'm not apologizing for it." Jake stood there for a long, loaded moment. His jaw was tight. His hands were in fists at his sides, and then they weren't, and then they were again. "You're my best friend," he said, and his voice finally cracked slightly on the last word. "How could you do this?" "Because I couldn't not," I said again. "Because she's everything, Jake. And I'm sorry that puts you in a position you didn't ask for, but I can't give her up. I won't. You're choosing her over our friendship." "I'm trying to choose both," I said. "But if you make me pick..." I looked at him steadily. "Yeah, I choose her." The silence after that was a different kind. Heavier. Sharp around the edges. Jake looked at Lily. "Is this what you want?" he said, and his voice had changed. The anger was still there, but underneath it now was something more complicated. Worry. Love. The particular helplessness of someone who wants to protect a person and doesn't know how to do it without hurting them. "Really? Because you know him. He's never done this before. A real commitment, Lily? Then that's my risk to take." She said it quietly but without any hesitation. "He's my choice, Jake, and I need you to respect that." Jake stood there for another long moment. Then he made a sound that was not quite a word and walked out, and the door shut behind him hard enough to shake the frame. Lily didn't move for a second. Then she sat back down on the couch and her hands were shaking slightly and her face crumpled. And I sat beside her and pulled her into me and held her while she cried. She pressed her face into my shoulder and her hands gripped the front of my shirt and she cried quietly and hard. The way people do when they've been holding something in for a long time. I held her and said it would be okay. I kept saying it until she started to believe it. After a while, she lifted her head and looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and said, "Say it again." "What?" "What you said. Before." I looked at her. Her face was blotched from crying and her hair was a mess and she was still wearing my shirt from 2 days ago and she was the most beautiful person I'd ever been this close to. "I love you, Lily," I said. "I'm completely, stupidly, irreversibly in love with you." She let out a breath that was half laugh and half sob. "I've loved you for so long," she said. I don't remember what it felt like not to. I tucked her hair back from her face with one hand, gently. She closed her eyes for just a moment at the touch, like it was something she'd been waiting a long time for. I'm not going anywhere, I said quietly. I know, she said, and then, with a certainty that settled something permanently in me, I know. Jake didn't call for 2 weeks. I won't pretend those 2 weeks were easy. They weren't. There was a specific kind of weight to knowing that someone who mattered to me was hurt and angry and that I was the reason. Jake and I had been friends for over a decade. We'd been through breakups and job losses and family stuff and all the ordinary disasters of being in your 20s together. Losing that, or even damaging it permanently, was not a small thing to sit with. Lily felt it too. She'd go quiet sometimes in the evenings, when the day had slowed down enough for the thoughts to catch up with her, and I'd watch her stare at nothing and know exactly where her mind had gone. Talk to me, I'd say. I keep thinking about Jake, she'd say, and then I'd reach over and take her hand and we'd sit with it together, because that was all there was to do. But the days kept moving, and Lily moved fully into the apartment, piece by piece, in that casual, inevitable way that felt less like a decision and more like a fact gradually revealing itself. Her books appeared on my shelves. Her things took up residence in the bathroom. She made one specific corner of the couch hers in a way that was absolutely non-negotiable, and I found I didn't negotiate. I loved it. Coming home to her became the best part of every day almost immediately. The sound of her moving around in the kitchen, or the lamp on in the corner, or just knowing she was there before I'd even opened the door. She was intense about us. I knew that going in. Emma, her best friend, had come by about a week in and pulled me aside while Lily was in the shower, and looked at me with this frank, no-nonsense expression and said, I need to know if you're serious. Completely, I said. Good, she said, because Lily doesn't do anything halfway. When she loves someone, she loves them with everything she has. It's all-consuming and it's possessive and it's constant. Most people can't handle it long-term. I know, I said. Emma studied me for a moment. You really don't mind it? I don't mind it, I said. I want her exactly as she is. Emma looked at me for another beat, then nodded once, like I'd passed something. There was a guy in college, she said more quietly. He cheated on her. After that she needs reassurance in ways she doesn't always ask for directly. She'll check your phone. She'll want to know where you've been. She'll ask questions that are really about something else underneath. She paused. Can you handle that? Whatever she needs, I said. I'll handle whatever she needs. Emma pointed at me. Don't hurt her, she said. Simple as that. She's my person and I will make your life complicated if you do. I'm not going to hurt her, I said. That night Lily was quiet, more than usual. She sat on the bed while I was getting ready to sleep, knees pulled up, looking at me with this careful expression. Emma talked to you, she said. She did. About my issues. About how you love people, I said, correcting the framing without making a thing of it. I sat on the edge of the bed facing her. Lily, what Emma called issues is just how you love. Completely, fiercely, without keeping one foot out the door. I looked at her steadily. I don't have a problem with that. Blake used to say I was clingy, she said. Her voice was even but her eyes gave away how much that word had stuck to her. That I needed to give him space. That I was too much. I'm not Blake. I know, but... No, I said. I need you to hear me on this one. You're not too much. You know what you want and you're not afraid to reach for it. You love hard. So do I. I held her gaze. Stop waiting for me to run. I'm not going to run. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were doing that filling, without spilling thing again that I was starting to understand was just how she processed things that meant a great deal to her. "Check my phone whenever you want," I said. "Text me when you're wondering where I am. Tell me when you're feeling insecure and I'll tell you the truth until you feel better. That's not a burden. That's just being with you. And I want to be with you." She blinked. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple." She climbed into my lap and looped her arms around my neck and pressed her forehead to mine and stayed there, just breathing, for a long moment. I put my hands on her back and held her there. "Mine," she said quietly, against my forehead. "Yours," I said, completely, and I meant it. Then, 2 weeks after everything had fallen apart, Jake called. He asked if we could meet for coffee. Just the two of us. I said yes without hesitating. I got to the diner first and took our usual booth. When he walked in, he looked like someone who hadn't been sleeping well, slightly worn around the edges in a way that Jake almost never let himself look in public. He sat down. The waitress brought coffee without us ordering it because we'd been coming here long enough that she knew. We sat in silence for a moment. Not the comfortable silence of old friends. The tense, loaded silence of two people trying to figure out where to start. Jake started. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what you said, about choosing her." He looked at his coffee. "About what that meant." "And," I said, "and I'm still angry," he said flatly. "I want to be clear about that. You're my best friend. You went behind my back. We didn't plan it, Jake. You could have fought it harder." I looked at him across the table. "I tried," I said honestly. "I tried for a long time, but I can't fight it anymore. I don't want to." I paused. "I love her. That's not going to change." Jake was quiet for a moment. He turned his coffee cup in his hands around and around. Then he said, "She's different with you." I waited. "I haven't seen her that relaxed in years," he said. "That easy. Like she's not performing anything." He finally looked up at me. "She used to smile like that when she was younger, before things got complicated." I forgot what it looked like. "She makes me happy too," I said, in a way I didn't know was available to me. Jake nodded slowly. "Once, twice. If you hurt her," he said, and now his voice carried something harder and more serious than anger. "Best friends or not, I'll come for you." "I know," I said. "I'm not going to hurt her." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Bring her to my parents for Sunday dinner. Mom's been asking. Might as well make it official." I think I released a breath I'd been holding for 2 weeks. "Yeah," I said. "We'll be there." I told Lily that evening. She was in the kitchen when I got home, stirring something on the stove, and I came in and put my arms around her from behind and said, "Jake wants us at Sunday dinner." She went still for a second. Then she turned around in my arms and looked at me. "He's okay with us?" "He's getting there." She made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a cry, pressed her face into my neck, and just stayed there for a moment. I felt her exhale against my skin. "I need to call him," she said. "He'd like that," I said. She called him right then, from the kitchen, while I finished what she'd been cooking and tried not to eavesdrop even though the apartment was small and they were both kind of loud. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I heard the tone carefully, then more easily. Then both of them talking at once the way they always did when things were actually okay between them. When she hung up, she was smiling in a way that reached her eyes and lit up her whole face. And she came over to where I was and wrapped her arms around my waist and said, "He apologized." "Good," I said. "He said he just wanted to protect me. That's what big brothers do." She looked up at me. "He said you two are going to be insufferable now that you're technically family." I laughed. "He's not wrong. Sunday dinner at her family's house was surreal in the best possible way. Her mother hugged me at the door like she'd been expecting me for years. Her father pulled me into the hallway while Lily was in the kitchen with her mom, looked at me with those quiet, careful eyes that Lily had clearly inherited from somewhere, and said, "You're a good man, Cole. I've always thought so, but she is my daughter. You understand what I'm saying?" "I understand," I said. "I'm not going to give you a reason to regret this." He held my gaze for another moment, then extended his hand. I shook it. Dinner was loud and warm and full, the way good family dinners are. Jake made a joke at our expense within the first 20 minutes, and Lily threw a bread roll at him, and her mother told them both to behave, and I sat there in the middle of all of it feeling, quietly and privately, like I had been handed something I didn't entirely deserve but was going to spend the rest of my life being grateful for. On the drive home, Lily reached across and took my hand on the center console. She didn't say anything, just held on, her thumb moving in small, slow circles against the back of my hand, watching the lights go past outside the window. "That went well," she said eventually. "Better than I expected," I said. She looked over at me. "Because we belong together," she said simply. "Once people see it, they understand." "You really believe that?" "I've believed it since I was 16, she said. "It's nice to finally be right out loud." The weeks that followed were the kind I hadn't known I was missing. Routines built themselves naturally. Morning coffee together, the way she always stole the last of it and didn't apologize. The evening walks we started taking when the weather got nicer. Lazy weekend mornings that stretched into afternoons without either of us noticing. I met her extended family at a birthday gathering and was welcomed with the slightly too enthusiastic energy of people who'd been hoping for this development for longer than they let on. She met mine and my mother cried, which was predictable, and my younger sister pulled Lily aside and told her something that made her laugh and glance at me with an expression I was not allowed to ask about. Her possessiveness showed up sometimes in ways I'd been warned about and didn't mind in the slightest. She'd check my phone without making it a whole thing, just glance at it when it buzzed. And I'd just leave it where she could see it because I had nothing to hide and she had every reason from her past to need that reassurance. She'd get quiet if I was late coming home, not accusatory, just visibly tense in a way that immediately unwound the moment I walked in. She asked questions that were really about something else underneath. Emma had been right about that, and I learned to hear the real question and answer that one. "You're not bothered by any of this?" she said to me one night. It wasn't quite a question. "No," I said. "Why not?" "Because it's you," I said. "Because this is just how you love, and the way you love me is the best thing anyone's ever done for me. Why would I want you to love me less?" She looked at me for a long time after that, like she was trying to find the part where I didn't mean it. She didn't find it. Then Ethan showed up. I want to be clear, I'd been expecting it. Not hoping for it, but expecting it. 3 years is a long time, and losing someone you'd planned a future around doesn't just resolve itself in a few weeks. He showed up at Lily's yoga studio one afternoon where she taught a class, waited until the students had cleared out, and cornered her in the parking lot. She called me crying. I was in my car before she finished the sentence. By the time I got there, Ethan was still in the parking lot. I don't want to make this more dramatic than it was, because it wasn't a big confrontation. It was just two men with a very clear line between them. I walked over, stood beside Lily, looked at him. He said she was making a mistake, that she'd regret this, that I'd break her heart and she knew it, that she was throwing away something real and good for something that wouldn't last. I let him finish. Then I said, "She's made her choice. You need to respect it. I'm talking to Lily, and Lily is with me," I said, keeping my voice level. "Whatever you need to say, you say it like that's a fact, because it is. She's moved on. She's happy. And if you care about her at all, you'll want that for her and you'll leave her alone." He looked at Lily. One long, final look, the kind that says everything that's already been said. She met his gaze steadily. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she said. "I genuinely am. But this is where I need to be." He left. She stood there for a moment after he was gone. Very still, her arms crossed over her chest. I stood beside her and didn't try to fill the silence immediately, because some silences need to exist first. Then she turned into me and pressed her face to my chest and took a long, slow breath. "You okay?" I said. "Yeah," she said against my shirt. He looked so sad. "I know. I didn't want to hurt him. I know, Lily, but you told him the truth. And the truth is better than what you were giving him before." She nodded against my chest. After a moment she pulled back and looked up at me, and her eyes were clear. Not sad, just certain. "Take me home," she said. "Yeah," I said. "Let's go home." About a month later, on a random Friday afternoon, Lily walked into the living room where I was reading and said, "Road trip, right now. No plan. Just drive." I looked up. She was standing there in jeans and one of my shirts, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders. That particular look in her eyes that I'd learned meant she'd already decided, and the only question was whether I was coming with her. "Let me get my keys," I said. We drove north with no destination and no schedule, and the windows down because the weather had finally turned properly warm. We stopped at small towns we'd never heard of and ate at diners with handwritten menus. We stayed in a motel that had seen better decades and didn't mind at all. We drove through mountains with the music on and talked about everything and nothing and laughed until we couldn't breathe over something I can't even remember now. Just that we laughed. One night in the motel room, lying on the bed with the window cracked and the sounds of the highway faint in the distance, she said, "I have a confession. Tell me. I used to be kind of obsessive about you," she said with this small self-aware smile. "When we were teenagers, I'd find reasons to be downstairs when you were over. I'd listen for your car. I'd remember everything you said." "That's not creepy at all," I said. She laughed. "I know. I was 16 and completely gone for you." She paused. "I still kind of keep track of everything you say, honestly." "I know," I said. "I don't mind." "You don't mind that I'm—" "No," I said. "Lily, I want your attention. I want you to think about me. I want to be the person you're tracking." I looked at her in the low light of the room. "You're not too much. You have never once been too much. Stop apologizing for how you love." She stared at me for a moment. Her eyes went soft in that way they did when she was trying to hold herself together. Then she said, "I want to marry you." And just like that, the whole room got very still. "I know it's fast," she said, sitting up slightly. "I know we haven't been together that long and you're going to think I want to marry you too," I said. She stopped talking. "I've known since the night you showed up at my door," I said. "Since you told me you loved me and I realized I'd been waiting for years to hear it without knowing I was waiting. Since I kissed you and couldn't imagine kissing anyone else ever again." I looked at her steadily. "I want to marry you, Lily. I'm not uncertain about that." She sat very still for a moment. Then she said, softly and completely, "So what are we waiting for?" "Nothing," I said. "Absolutely nothing." I pulled over the next morning on the way home. Right there on the side of the highway with the mountains behind us and cars passing and the morning sun coming sideways through the windows. I went around to the trunk and found a pen. I came back to her window and I found an old gas station receipt in the cup holder. I wrote on it, "Will you marry me?" I went around to her side. She'd gotten out of the car, already suspecting, already with her hand over her mouth. I got down on one knee on the gravel shoulder of a highway with a gas station receipt in my hand, and I looked up at her and I said, "Lily, I don't have a ring. This proposal is objectively insane." But I love you. I love how completely you love me. I love that you're all in, always, and that you've never once looked for the exit. I'm all in too. I've been all in since before I admitted it. I held up the receipt. Marry me. She was laughing and crying at the same time. This full, whole, unstoppable version of both at once. And she said yes before I'd even finished the sentence. She pulled me up off the ground and kissed me there on the highway shoulder with the morning coming in gold around us and cars going past and neither of us caring even slightly. We're really doing this, she said, breathless, her forehead against mine. We're really doing this, I said. Jake's going to think we've completely lost it. We have completely lost it, I said. I'm fine with that. She kissed me again, laughing against my mouth. We drove home engaged, planning how to tell people, preparing for the reactions, ready to defend it if we had to. We didn't have to. Jake, when we told him, looked between us for one moment and then said, "Took you long enough." Lily's mouth fell open. He said, "You two have been heading here since she was 16. I just wasn't ready to see it." He pulled Lily into a hug, then me, and he said quietly, in that low voice he used when things actually mattered to him, "Take care of her." And I said, "I will, always." Her parents cried, both of them. Her mother held my face in her hands like I was something she'd been hoping for, and her father shook my hand with both of his this time and said, "Welcome to the family," and meant it fully. We planned a small wedding. Neither of us wanted a production, just the people who mattered, just the truth of what we were to each other, witnessed by the people we loved. Lily planned it with the same focused intensity she brought to everything. She cared about the details. I cared about her. That was a good division. A month before the wedding, she had a hard night. I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug, staring at nothing, and I sat down across from her and waited. "What if we're moving too fast?" she said. "Do you love me?" I asked. "Obviously," she said. "Do you want to marry me?" "Yes, more than anything." "Then we're not moving too fast. We're moving at exactly the pace that's right for us." I reached across the table and covered her hands with mine. "Lily, you could need me every hour of every day and it still wouldn't be too much. I'm not going to hit a wall with you. I don't have one. Stop being scared of something that isn't going to happen." She looked at me. "I've never had someone choose me completely before." "You have now," I said. "And I'm not going anywhere." She nodded, and I watched the tension leave her shoulders slowly, like something she'd been holding up for a long time finally being allowed to set down. 2 weeks before the wedding, Ethan showed up at the studio again. He made one more attempt, told her she was making a mistake, said I'd break her. She called me. I went. I dealt with it calmly, clearly, finally. Ethan left. He didn't come back. The wedding was exactly right. Her family's backyard on a clear afternoon. Close family and the friends who'd been there through everything. A table with flowers Lily had agonized over for 3 weeks and looked perfect. Jake standing beside me as my best man, holding the rings and pretending he wasn't emotional and absolutely being emotional. And then Lily at the end of the aisle. White dress, simple and beautiful. Her auburn hair loose and falling soft around her shoulders the way it had been that first night in my doorway, in the rain. Her green eyes finding me immediately, from all the way across the yard, and not leaving. I started crying before she was halfway to me. She was smiling when she saw it. This full, unguarded, unreserved smile. The one she didn't perform for anyone. The one that was just her being completely, entirely herself. We wrote our own vows. I went first. "Lily," I said, and my voice was not entirely steady. "You knocked on my door one night and turned my whole life over. And I didn't know yet that was the best thing that was ever going to happen to me. You loved me from across a distance for years, quietly, without asking for anything back. You waited, and when you finally said it out loud, you were the bravest person I'd ever seen. I took a breath. You love with everything you have. You're possessive and intense and all-consuming, and I am so grateful for every single part of that. I promise to choose you every day, to be the kind of person who deserves to be chosen by you, to let you be exactly as much as you are, always, because you are never too much for me. You are exactly right. You are exactly mine. And I am completely, entirely yours. Lily was crying. She had been for the last 30 seconds. She pressed her lips together and looked up at the sky for a moment, composing herself, and then back at me. "Cole," she said, "I loved you before I knew what love was supposed to feel like. I watched you from across the room for years and wanted to be seen, and the day you finally saw me, really saw me, I think I breathed for the first time." Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking slightly where they held mine. "You never ran from how much I feel. You never called it too much or asked me to dial it back. You just held space for all of it. For all of me." She smiled through the tears. "I promise to love you fiercely, always, to be yours completely, to knock on your door at midnight when I need you, always, and to never, not for a single day, take for granted that you opened it." The small crowd around us was not entirely composed. Jake was definitely not composed. Her mother had given up entirely. The officiant said the words. We said ours. And when it was done, when she was mine and I was hers in every official and permanent and real way, she leaned up and kissed me and then pressed her forehead to mine in that way she did, close, quiet, certain. "Mine," she whispered. "Yours," I whispered back. "Completely. No conditions." She laughed softly against my cheek, and I held her there, in the afternoon light, in her parents' backyard, surrounded by the people who loved us, and I thought about a midnight knock on a door and wet footprints on a hardwood floor, and how the most important things in life have a habit of arriving without warning and changing everything without asking permission. She didn't just have my heart. She owned every single part of me. She had for longer than I'd admitted. And standing there with her in my arms, I understood something I think I'd been circling toward my entire life. Being completely claimed by the right person isn't something you lose yourself in. It's the place you finally, fully, come home.